Hi everyone, this is Long Vo. Today I'm analyzing one of my games played on August the 24th, 2012 against my cell phone. The program is called Chess Anywhere at level 9, which is the highest level. I'm playing white and I start off with e4. So my opponent goes c5 and I go knight to f3 and he goes d6. So this is the Sicilian, but for some reason I didn't recognize it, and I wasn't sure what to do. So normally with the Sicilian I would simply play d4, and if he takes, and I would take, and that's the way I usually play. But because I didn't recognize it, I went c3 with the idea of pushing to d4. And he goes knight to f6, attacking the e pawn, and I defend with d3. So my three pawns here I feel are a little bit awkwardly placed because this one is stuck defending the e pawn, and it's kind of backwards because it doesn't have a defender anymore. So I'm not too comfortable here. My opponent plays e5, so he's really putting pressure on that d4 square, preventing me from pushing later on. But right now, anyways, I'm not ready for that because I'm still defending the e pawn. And I go bishop to g5, pinning the knight. And normally I had another option to go to e3, which is a little bit more passive. So today I tried to be a little bit more aggressive to perhaps make him feel uncomfortable and forcing some pawn pushes. He goes bishop to e7, unpinning the knight, and I go knight to d2 because the c3 square is taken, so I decided to develop the knight. So right here I don't have too much space, right? So the light squared bishop is kind of stuck here. The knight is not ideal, but because he opened up his king side here, I felt he may want to castle king side, so I decided to bring my knight here towards the king side. So he castles king side, and now because I know where my target is now on the king side, I went bishop to e2 with the idea of going knight to f1, then knight to g3, giving the knight some options to attack on the king side. Perhaps eventually exchanging the knights. This knight becomes really important for him for defense of the h7 pawn. So that's my plan. He goes bishop to e6, and I go knight to f1, and he develops with knight to c6. So now I go knight to g3. So see, my knight here made 3 moves already, consecutive moves, and it's okay. I mean, normally it's not recommended to move a piece more than once in the beginning, but if there's a purpose for it, right? So because if I castle, then how am I going to move that knight there, right? So now's the time to do it, and it's not like he's really aggressive or anything. None of us have really committed to the center or anything like that, so we're both behind the center line here. So it's okay. I think it's a little bit passive from both sides, so it gives me a chance to organize my pieces before attacking. He goes queen to b2, so that's the first attack, threatening the b2 pawn, and I defend with queen to d2. So this gives my king some options to castle either side, and he kicks my bishop away with h6, and I retreat to bishop to e3. So that was the goal of staying there, is to first of all put pressure on the knight, so if I wanted to, I may have exchanged the knight for the bishop, or simply to make him weaken the light squares around the king by inducing some pawn moves. So as you know, pawn moves are irreversible, so once the pawn moves here, this square has one less defender, right? So initially it had 2 defenders. Now because he moved it, there's only 1 defender. So all I have to do now is perhaps pin this pawn, maybe with the bishop here, eventually pinning that pawn, and then the queen could like come right here into the king's right in front of him, and the pawn cannot take, and then getting a knight here perhaps to attack this side. So that's the goal, right? So you see all my pieces here are aiming towards the king's side. So knight to g4. So obviously now the dark square bishop is trapped. It will fall, and that's okay. Now also when I retreated the bishop back then, it was also to reinforce the d4 square, because now that the e4 pawn is defended by this knight, I'm able to push, right? So let's count the defenders and the attackers on the d4 square. So if I was to push here, I would have 1 defender, 2, 3, and 4 defenders, and he would have 1, 2, 3, and 4 attackers. So if I did push and he, let's say he took, I would take back, he would take, I would take, takes, and takes, it would be okay. I would be up the exchange, but of course we're not really gonna finish the whole series of exchanges, right? But the point here is that when I make a move, or when I plan to make a move, that's the way I think. So that's how I count, and it would make sense for me to push. I don't know if that's the move I played. Yep, so that's what I did. So I went d4, and he goes c takes d, and c takes d, and now knight takes e3. So I'm okay with that, because when I take back with f takes e3, I'm adding replacing the bishop, right? So I lost a defender, but I'm adding a defender, so I'm still okay. And my real threat here is the next move is to push here to fork the knight and the light squared bishop. So he goes e takes d, and e takes d. The threat remains to push. And here my opponent makes a mistake with bishop to f6. So because now my next move is to fork the 2 pieces, I think he should have gone something like d5 here, and if I take, then he could take back, and then now he can focus on attacking this isolated queen pawn, right? So if let's say I made a move here, and then he could add another attacker, so now this pawn, I would be stuck adding defenders, and then he could add more attackers, and then if I make a random, and there's no way for me to add another, well, I could here, right? But then he could start exchanging, right? And then that way now he has 1, 2, 3, 4 against 1, 2, 3, right? So this pawn will fall. So that's, I think, a better move, right, for him. But instead he played bishop to f6, and now I fork the knight and the light squared bishop. But of course I'm also opening the diagonal for the dark squared bishop. So he goes queen takes b2, and I'm okay with exchanging now because I know I'm going to be up a piece. So queen takes b2 and bishop takes b2. So I go rook to b1. So of course now he has to run, and he can't defend all three pieces, so one of them will fall. And he goes bishop to c3 check, and king to f2, opening the first rank here for the other rook to become more active. And of course he can't check here because I would simply exchange, and that would work out for me, and then I could still take. So he goes bishop to g4, attacking the knight, and I'm okay with that because at this point I know I'm up a piece with d takes c6, and he goes b takes c, and rook to c1, attacking the dark square bishop and the c6 pawn. So bishop to e5, attacking the knight, and that's fine. I want to exchange at this point. Rook takes c6, and bishop to e6, attacking the a2 pawn. So now, exchanging is good. So knight takes e5, and d takes e5, and so I think here I should have perhaps simply pushed to get out of the bishop's way, but instead, or I should have blocked here, offering some exchanges, because I'm up, right? So it just makes sense. But instead I went rook to a6. So this move is first of all to protect the a pawn and to put pressure on his a7 pawn. So the rook here is sort of stuck defending that pawn. And he goes rook to d8, and now I push a4. So another waiting move, rook to f8, and bishop to b5, with the idea of attacking the other rook, so I could take the pawn, and rook to c8, preventing me from going here, and rook to d1. So now the idea is to try to exchange the light squared bishops, and rook to c7. So this rook is tricky. He won't let me go here or here, so that's fine. So I go bishop to c6, not really to attack the rook here, because now this one's defending the pawn anyways, but the goal is to stimulate another exchange. So rook to b8, and bishop to d5, attacking his light squared bishop, and he goes rook to b2 check. So I didn't, well, of course I couldn't go up because this would have been checkmate. So I went king to f1, and he goes bishop takes d5, and e takes d5. So here I have a passed pawn. I'm happy with that, and I'm up a knight as well. So rook to c2. So here he's threatening to take the g pawn here, or to deliver a couple of checks. and I go d6, trying to queen. I'm okay with over here. So rook to f2 check, and king to e1. So this is okay because the knight is defending, and if he takes this pawn, it's okay, I can simply push. So rook takes g2, and same thing, I'm okay here. If he delivers check here, I could still block with the knight. If he takes this pawn here, then I would simply keep pushing, right? So as long as the knight is here, I can move the knight back and it's fine. So now I push d7. Now he feels the pressure, so he goes rook to b8, and I go d8, promoting to a queen with check. Rook takes d8, rook takes d8 check, king to h7, and rook back to d2, defending and offering an exchange. Rook takes d2. Now, if he didn't take, the only move is rook to g1 check, and what I would have done is, probably knight to f1, and so I'm fine. And the next step is to promote the other pawn. So instead he goes rook takes d2 and king takes d2. So I'm leading here, I feel. Even though in material wise, these pawns cancel out, these pawns cancel out. Well, I'm up a rook, but well, yeah, I'm up a rook. But anyways, even if we were even, and he has 3 pawns, I feel that the knight would outperform the 3 pawns. He goes f6, and rook takes a7, king to g6, rook to e7. So the goal here is to put pressure on the e pawn, so if he moves this pawn, I would take. So now the pawns are unable to move, and of course if he moves this pawn, I would simply take as well, or with the knight. So he goes king to h7, and of course I'm also putting pressure on this pawn if the king comes too far. And I push a5, king to g6. At this point it's pretty much over. So I'm gonna go pretty quickly. So e6, f5, rook takes e5, f4, knight to e4, f3. So I'm not worried about this pawn. If he goes one more move, then I simply take. The rook here is neutralizing the king and the net here. The pawn, nothing can move this rook. So it's pretty much over. So a7, f2, knight takes f2, king to f7, a8, promoting to a queen, king to f6, attacking the rook, knight to g4 check and defending the rook, king to g6, queen to e8 check. So at this point I just have to be careful not to stalemate. Once he went to king to h7, the only move that would deliver check, because right now he's in stalemate, right? Like, well, he could always move the pawns, but it's getting, I have to be careful. So I went knight to f6 check. I didn't even see the checkmate threat here. If he takes, then I would simply checkmate. But the goal is to just open up the king here. So once this pawn takes, I figured I would just start delivering checks. And to my surprise, when I delivered rook to e7 check, it was mate as well.